Well, one of the most common requests that I get has to do with tools. Specifically, what are my favorite tools and the ones that I use most in the shop? I'm going to run through this somewhat quickly, but while I do, see if you can figure out what the number one tool is that I use the most here in the shop. What's that one that I'm always reaching for, that you might be reaching for as well if you have one? Okay, the first tool on the list is going to be a hot glue gun. Now, this is something that I just always have here on the bench. It's easy to just quickly plug in. In fact, when I'm going to go fabricate something or put together a box like this that has some electrical components in here, I'll just have this handy and warming up ready to use because it's just so easy to attach things together, like metal to plastic or plastic to plastic or metal to metal, wood even. It's such an easy tool that you can use to fasten things together, even if it's temporary, because you can always just piece it together, figure out what you're doing, and then heat it up again and just take it apart. Or it can be somewhat permanent. I also have a mini one here, so when we're traveling, I carry this smaller one with us in the RV. The next one is a heat gun. This is also something that I always have on hand and use quite frequently. It just has a lot of different applications. In fact, I've made a video about the many uses of a heat gun, so I'll link to that so you can check it out. But from removing stickers to heating up metal to loosen bolts to heating up, heat shrink for electrical stuff for wiring, it has a lot of different applications and a lot of different attachments that usually come with just a regular old heat gun that I really don't use because I just don't grab for them. I'll just use a heat gun as it is. And when you want to disassemble the stuff that you put together with your hot glue gun, this is what you also want to use. Just heat it up real good, comes right off. But it's also one of those things where I travel with a smaller version. This is kind of a little embossing gun, but basically the same sort of thing. Mini heat gun that I bring with me when we're traveling in the RV. It's just smaller and easier to tote around. I love small box cutting utility knives. Now, we got our standard size ones here, like that. I use them for probably bigger jobs, but for the most part, I like the small ones. And these Gerber ones used to be my favorites. They're like a little pocket knife. They have a belt clip on them and a little lock. So they're locked right now. And then you just kind of press it like that and you can close it. They got a silver one and, a little black one. I use these a lot. With these Gerber ones, you need a screwdriver to remove this to replace a blade. These, you can just press down this locking thing and the blade comes right out like that. And you can just easily put in a new blade. And then it's in. You got a new blade. Nice and small. It's got the belt clip. And it's, like I said, it's a multi-tool as well. On this side, we've got a bottle opener here. On the top here, we've got a screwdriver, or I guess you can use it as a little prying tool. And on the bottom here, we've got a little Phillips head. All from this one little tool. Not to mention with all the boxes and stuff we get from Amazon or, that you constantly are tearing down, these come in handy all the time. So that's why this is one of my favorite tools. Now, these multi-tool driver type of tools are very handy as well. There is, I think this is supposed to be like an 11-in-1, but it's more like a 8-in-1. It has multiple bits. This one, for example, standard flathead here. And if you flip the bit around, it's a Phillips head. And then you can also take this end out and it has two more on this side. We got just a smaller flathead and a smaller Phillips head here. So then we take this whole shaft out, and on the other side, we've got a square bit, two different size square bits. very handy for electrical stuff or just those, those fasteners that have that square bit. And then if we remove it, we've got a couple of Torx bits here, some smaller, commonly used Torx bit sizes. So this is a very useful tool. I keep one here in the shop, and I also keep one in the RV. Now, we've got miniature versions of that too. We've got small ones. This is for those hard to reach spaces, it's just a stubby, but same concept. It's got a Phillips head and a standard flathead on one. It doesn't have as many options, so it's basically just that, but a stubby version. Now, for more precise stuff, we have the same concept, but these are just smaller bit sizes. So we've got a very small standard flathead, and on the other side, a very small version on the other side, even smaller. And as you flip these around, we've got a very small Phillips head size and a slightly larger Phillips head size here. The nice thing about this is you have like a shorter side here, or if you want a longer driver here, you can just use this longer side. So this is pretty handy. Now this one here is a little different. It's the Klein Tools HVAC all-in-one tool, and I found this to be very helpful even if you're not doing HVAC work, because it has a couple of different hex head, little sockets here. Primarily, they're intended for, those common sizes when you're using sheet metal fasteners like this. It's got a little magnet inside here, which is great. So this has two different positions. If I'm down in the lower position, I have a socket that's a 1/4 inch size. And for the larger fasteners, the 5/16, I push that up like that, and then I can squeeze this up here and tighten it so it doesn't pop back down. And now I have this 5/16, which is very useful. You'd be surprised how many things in an RV actually have those two different sizes. So this comes in very, very handy. But just like the other one, you can flip it around. And on the other end, we've got our standard drivers. We've got a Phillips and a flathead here, and we can rotate that around. And this is really cool. It's got a little Schrader bit tightener here. So, typically for air conditioner units and stuff, they have Schrader valves. So, this comes in handy. But you can also use it for, a bicycle or anything that has a Schrader valve. And on the other end of that is this tiny little flathead for making other adjustments. So, yeah, I found this HVAC one to be very useful. Now, another cool little hand tool is this zip tie tensioner and cutter. Now, you might be thinking, what do you need that for? You can just use a set of wire cutters and just pull it tight. But there are times when you're in a very tight spot and you can't really reach in and use two hands. It's easier with just one hand. All right, let me sacrifice a zip tie here for the sake of demonstration. So I'm just going to put it around this socket here, and we'll just get it started. Now, this goes along the side of the zip tie like that, and let's just imagine this is somewhere in a tight spot, and then it breaks free, and it's very tight, and we've got a flush cut here on the zip tie. So pretty handy. I've used this for a few different things, and it's really nice to have. Kind of fun. Now, if you've followed my solar installation on our Class A motorhome, then you might be familiar with this tool. This is a Riv Nut tool, and it's like a different kind of a rivet tool, but Riv Nuts are these threaded rivet style inserts, and they come in various sizes. I primarily use a 1/4 20 size. So you can use it to insert into, fiberglass or a piece of aluminum or sheet metal or, different types of material that's fairly thin, and it creates this insert in there that you can basically screw in a bolt. And I use them to attach my solar panels to the bracket, which attached it to the rail or the rack system, and they work really well. Just then I've been using them for several other things that they've become very handy. So I really like using this tool and finding uses for it. I think a year or two ago, I needed to raise my license plate up a little higher because I had a bike rack and all this stuff that was obstructing my license plate on the back of the motorhome. So I put in a couple of the Riv Nuts there a little higher, and then I just moved my license plate up there, and I could just bolt it right in, and it works just fine. So yeah, I really like the Riv Nuts, and there's just a lot of different creative applications for that. Now, there's also something called a plus nut, and it's just a similar thing to a Riv Nut. It's just probably for more robust material, and it creates a really, really strong hold. Wherever you insert it, they're a little bit larger. You can get them in different sizes, just like the Riv Nuts, but they require a slightly different tool to apply them. Or there's ways you can do it without the tool, that you'd have to make something. But I'll talk more about that probably in a later project. But just so you know, they got Riv Nuts, and then the larger brother of that is plus nuts. In either case, I like to use the 1/4-20 size because I have a lot of stuff that uses 1/4-20, and I just kind of stick to that same size, that bolt pattern, for just about everything. All right, let's get into some basic cordless tools. I've been trying to, over the years, just eliminate corded stuff. And, when you do that, you kind of have to pick a color. And I went with DeWalt, and I started out with some a basic DeWalt set. This is a drill driver, like a little impact. And it came with this standard drill as well. So these two I use quite frequently for a lot of different things, for just standard, drill driver type accessories. This one is very, very handy. This one covers pretty much everything else. These use a 20-volt lithium DeWalt battery. So, you start acquiring these batteries, which is the most expensive part of this. So once you start getting all these batteries to go with your basic tools, whether it's DeWalt or Milwaukee or any of the others, you kind of have to stick with the same brand because you have the batteries. And I keep a few here on the wall just ready to go, charged up, because I'm usually grabbing one of my yellow tools, and I grab a battery to go along with that. Now, I do have one that's not a DeWalt, and this is just one that I've had for a long time. It's just a small 12-volt little mini driver, and it's just so handy because it's small. You can just throw it in your bag, and if you just need some basic drilling or drive in a few screws, it's very handy to have one of these small ones. I don't know if you can find this one anymore. This is an old Makita, but there are some other brands that have the 12-volt ones still out there, and I'll make sure I add a couple of those to my list. A few years ago, I bought a cordless ratchet, and it was a different brand. I think it was a Skill brand. I used it quite a bit, and I think I wore it out. Last year, it finally bit the dust, and I decided to replace it, obviously, and I upgraded to a DeWalt. Now, this also came with this power stack battery. It's a little bit smaller, so it's nice and handy. And this is a really good ratchet. You have to spend a little bit more for this, but I think it's worth it. This is a 3/8-inch ratchet, and it's got forward and reverse, just like a regular ratchet. But once you get to a point where you just want to do a final torque on it, you can just really torque on this and use it just like a regular socket wrench, which is really nice. You don't have to worry about breaking it because it's built for that. Got a little light, and you can lock it. But yeah, really nice tool to have in your bag. A little more expensive, but definitely nice to have, especially when you're reaching, for a bolt to loosen or tighten it, and you've maybe got just one hand to do it. This saves you a lot of time and saves your knuckles as well. All right, now since I have my drills handy here, I want to share with you a couple of my favorite drill attachments. Now, the first one is this this rivet attachment that I'll use with my standard drill here. And, I injured my wrist a few years ago, and I'm just a little careful with it now, and really using a standard rivet gun. Every once in a while it just kind of gets you. It's like, so I've been using this, and it just makes putting rivets in really easy and kind of fun. So it's really easy to use. It just goes in the drill here. Just put it in the chuck, and you just put your rivet in the end like that. Just tighten it. And then there it goes. It just flew out because it's not in anything. But then to remove it, reverse the drill, out it comes, and you're ready for another one. So this is a really nice attachment, not expensive. And the other attachment is this sheet metal cutting attachment. And it works with a standard drill driver. It's got the little driver end on it, so it locks in there. And you hold it like this, and you can just do this on the side. And then it's got these little blades here. And you just use it to cut a straight line on your sheet metal, and it works really well. Let me see if I can demonstrate one here. No problem. A few years ago, I picked up this small chainsaw. It was a DeWalt. And the reason I went with this one is because it wasn't too expensive, but I could use the same batteries that I was using for the drills and all the other battery-powered DeWalt stuff that I have. And this one worked pretty good. It's a 12-inch blade, and it's great for just small pruning jobs, small trees, just, thinning things out. But it does kind of eat through some of these batteries. So I was still keeping my gas chainsaw, my 16-inch gas chainsaw, around for those larger jobs. Now, I've been using this one for a little while, and thinking that it might replace my gas chainsaw. It works pretty good. It's a little less expensive than the DeWalt ones, which were like a 60-volt version, and they're pretty expensive. This is more of a budget one, and it's been working just fine for taking out some of these trees, and I can pretty much take down a medium-sized tree with one of these, take all the branches off, cut it up into logs, and still have leftover battery power. And this is a 40-volt lithium battery. So, yeah, this one's been working pretty well. It's a 16-inch blade. It's got a lock on it, just like your standard chainsaw stuff. These do take chain oil. You got to, put that in here, but no big deal. But, yeah, this one cuts really well. Surprisingly, it does the trick. And it's pretty affordable, for a budget model at about $130. And I've been pretty happy with it so far. My favorite DeWalt tools is this leaf blower. No, I don't typically call it a leaf blower, but, sure, it blows leaves, but I use it for much more than just that. Recently, obviously, it's been fall, I've had to clear some leaves. It's great. I also periodically will blow the leaves off of the top of the RV using this. It's really quick to just clean it off real quick. So, those fall leaves just leave a stain, on the roofing stuff, so I like to keep it clean. But yeah, I also use it to just clean the shop and just, clean debris and stuff from around the house. And another thing I use it for is drying things. When I'm cleaning the engine compartment in the car or the RV, and I clean it off and then I want to dry it real quick, so I use this. When I'm washing the car, I can give it a quick dry without having to towel it down. And I've used it to dry a lot of different things, and it comes in very, very handy for doing that, and not have to wipe things down. So this is definitely one of my favorite tools. This is the brushless version. I know DeWalt has, I think, 3 different models of blowers, but this one is kind of my go-to. It's very powerful and capable blower. Now, I've become a huge fan of these Milwaukee Packout toolboxes. Years ago, I was looking for a solution for tool storage and organization and stuff that I can transport and organize better when we are traveling in the RV and when I'm back here working in the shop. So in the past, what I would do is I would load tools up and figure out what I'm going to bring, and then when I get back, I'd unload everything, and it's just there's a lot of effort, and you're worried about forgetting something that you might need. This was a great solution for me, so I started using these larger Packout toolboxes. I've got one here for just standard screwdrivers, various things, wrenches, pliers, just a lot of different stuff here. And I have another one back here that's all electrical stuff. What I do now is when I'm here in the shop, I work out of these toolboxes, and I have them on the this rolling cart, and I'm constantly just working out of the toolboxes. And then when we hit the road, I just grab the toolboxes that I have and I put them in the RV, and that's been a great solution for me. But they come with a lot of different accessories, and one of the things that I like is that you can get these mounting plates. So what I've done with some of the smaller stuff that I have wiring, I have nuts and bolts, I got wrenches and pliers, and I've got sockets. I can mount them on the wall, and it just gives me more storage options here in the shop. And in the RV, I can do the same thing, inside the compartment in the RV, and it keeps them nice and secure. We take a look inside my electrical toolbox here. You can see some of the electrical stuff that I use quite often. Obviously, a good multimeter is pretty handy. You don't need to get too fancy with this stuff. The stuff that I like about a multimeter is I just like nice, big numbers. Come with a decent set of probes, and for the most part, you just need stuff that's going to measure DC and AC voltage and resistance, and for continuity, how to tell things are connected, and some sort of current measurement is nice. So this is nice to have in terms of just usability. Is have a little stand here. Really nothing fancy. This is a meter that I've had for a long time, but I've got several others because I kind of like finding different meters. But this is kind of a go-to one for me. I also picked up, a couple of these clamp meters. These are very useful for testing electrical current flowing through your circuit. This is a nice small one. There's a lot of them now. What you want to look for is one that can actually measure DC as well as AC current. Some of them just say AC, but this is a nice little clamp meter. You just clamp it over typically the positive side, and it'll tell you how many amps is being drawn through here. Now, this is also a little multimeter, so it's got places to hook up probes here on the bottom, and you can use it just as an all-around multimeter as well. So this is the tool that I didn't realize that I absolutely needed until I got one. Now, I can read voltage and everything on my multimeter all day, DC voltage, and that's what I would typically use. But, once I started using one of these test probes, I reach for this a lot now. So it makes it easy just to clamp on this negative side to the chassis of your vehicle or RV or whatever the negative side of your circuit is, and then start probing around, and you can see where there is a hot connection there, so there's voltage. And then this one's nice because it actually reads the voltage level of the circuit that you're testing. So very handy. It'll also tell you when your connections are backwards. So it'll give you a different light and a indication to let you know that your positive that you thought was positive is actually negative, and you got some reverse polarity going on there. So it's a very handy device to have instead of always having to carry the meter. So I picked this up a couple of years ago, and what it is a thermal camera. This one's by Klein. It's a little expensive, but it's really nice to have when you're looking at electrical equipment and trying to figure out where you might have issues, because especially in electrical stuff, the hot areas are typically, potential issues that you need to pay more attention to. It's nice having one of these. It's great for testing heaters and other things as well, but very useful for electrical work. Oh, here's something I use all the time. It has a very wide view of light. So this is really cool. I could just put it on and it illuminates the entire area that I'm working on. Yeah, it's got a high setting and got a low setting, and then it's got a blinky setting that I never use, but pretty much just use it on the other settings. And the battery is rechargeable. It's a USB-C rechargeable battery. A lot of people have asked, when they see these in videos, okay, give me the link to that headlamp. It's really cool. I use it a lot, and it really illuminates an entire area as opposed to just a focused area. So this is my favorite headlamp. Since I'm working with electrical stuff quite a bit, I'm always testing and building little things. It's nice to have a DC power supply. Now, there's a lot of different options out there. I just have a really basic one here on the bench, but it's nice and variable. I think it goes up to like 5 amps and up to 30 volts, which isn't a lot, but it seems to be adequate for what I need. If I just need to power something that's 12 volts, or just test something, I just want to plug it in, turn it on, see if it works. It's nice to have that power supply. I've even used it to charge a large lithium battery bank and equalize, my lithium batteries before I put them in the RV, just do a slow charge. So that worked well for that, just with a constant current on those batteries. But if I'm getting into some serious battery charging, it's nice to have actual lithium battery chargers. And I got a couple here. Here's one that I use quite a bit, and it goes up to 50 amps. So, it's lithium compatible, and it's got a couple alligator clips here. And the nice thing about this one is that it's variable, so I can adjust the current from like 10 all the way up to 50 amps. So it's really nice to be able to adjust that, and so I can use it for smaller batteries all the way up to larger batteries. Now, when I'm working with really large batteries, it's nice to have a battery charger that can put out a bit more. So this is another charger here that goes up to 80 amps. This is from Lead Time, and this was kind of designed to be mounted somewhere, and I've used this for larger batteries. So we're working with like a 200 to 460 amp hour battery, or a larger battery bank that you want to put more current in at once and charge them up faster. I'm actually thinking of hardwiring this into the RV for some auxiliary battery charging. So, look for that video coming up. But yeah, this one has a handle on it. It's a bit larger. It does not have that variable adjustment on there that the other one does. But so it just it's going to try to put out the 80 amps. But it does have a power switch here on the back. And one thing nice about the Lead Time chargers is that they have a little bit of a circuitry in here that's actually going to test the battery before it actually starts charging. With lithium batteries, if they get drained all the way down to zero, sometimes they need to be woken up with a charge with a little bit of voltage before you can actually start charging them. So you have to kind of reactivate the BMS and this charger, and they have a 48 volt one also. It's got a feature that allows them to kind of reactivate these batteries also. Now, one thing you may not know about my shop is that everything, including this workbench, everything is on wheels. I'm constantly changing my mind, shifting things around to sometimes just fit a specific project. But I started getting these little dollies that you can get at either Home Depot or Harbor Freight for like $12. And, you know, in the past, I would just say, oh, I'm going to make a little rolling thing. But it's just so easy to go just buy one of these. It's not that expensive. And I've got a whole bunch of these. They've actually got a larger size as well. But they're great for rolling around heavy things, you know, power station or a little generator or heavy batteries, just scooting things around the shop, not having to lift things all the time. But really easy to move just about anything around when you need it. So these are very handy. I encourage you to go pick up at least a couple of these to simplify things around the shop. But yeah, everything rolls. So do you have a guess for what the most used tool here in the shop is? Did you think it was the little knife, a little utility knife? Maybe drill? Well, it turns out, there's several of these things that are probably very close, second, third place. When I really racked my brain trying to figure out what is the most used tool, I use this all the time. I say every day or so, you know, I have this within reach, and I could just grab it and clean everything out. I really like to have a clean shop, and I hate starting a new project when I'm still in the middle of another one. So I like to clean everything up before I move on to another project. So yeah, the answer is this leaf blower. I use it all the time. So thanks for being part of our community, and thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.